So my name is Alex Iles. Just to give you some background on myself, I'm going to be speaking on where I started looking at the Roman road network and basically how the native settlements seem to be always overlooking it, and then it's expanded since there. So that will develop from that point onwards. I'm going to be talking about Northumberland. So if you don't know where Northumberland is, you can see the Scottish border to the north of it. To the south, you've got County Durham and Cumbria, where they still eat people to the west. Right here, let's get more of a ladder. So right here, this is this research actually developed out of my master's. So I did my dissertation on looking for early medieval upland settlement and hill forts in Northumberland. So what I was doing was I was looking at the research of Andy Seam and Gordon Noble, and when I was looking at that research, I basically started putting that idea, those theories onto Northumberland, looking from there. To give you an idea of the colors, because that'll come back again later on, green is Iron Age, blue is medieval. If you've got a white circle around it, it's a PAS, in this case it's Roman, with the ones with the black dots in the center are PAS finds. The very handsome pink color is early medieval. And then finally, the golden ones are actually Bronze Age, but I'll come back and mention it again in a minute. Now, the established data for Northumberland is a little bit tricky because from the 4th century onwards, we have a little bit of a difficulty because most of the sites are actually done by morphology. So you have your Iron Age morphology, so it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely an Iron Age or a Roman Iron Age site. And then alongside that as well, you also have pottery finds. So you've got medieval pottery, you can say it's medieval. If it's Roman pottery, it's Roman. But from the historical sources, we know that in the 4th and 5th century, there was a lot of conflict up in this area north of Hadrian's Wall. And so because that pottery dies down, so it becomes a lot harder. When you're looking at the Roman rural settlements of Britain, we've got 3 sites that possibly are 4th century. Unfortunately, one of them is underneath Kielder water, and therefore is not able to be done, but that was a late 3rd, early 4th century details. Then this one right here is Hucko, excavated by the amazing George Joby, who is one of my archaeological heroes. He found a piece that he thought was Ewe. It was sent away, but unfortunately it's been lost since. So it can't be reanalyzed, and so we have to take Hucko off the table. And then finally, at the top, we have Woodbridge Farm, not far from Millfield. Unfortunately, I reread that paper, and what they were doing was they were using Dunbarton, which since has been found to, they were using Dunbarton, which has since been found to be a Neolithic site, as a bench post. And they said, oh yeah, this is definitely 4th and 5th century from the native style pottery and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we have to take it off the table as well. So our 3 sites that could actually be from the 4th century in Northumberland are not possible. To bookend the other end of my research, we have the 7th century onwards early medieval site of the Northumbrian Golden Age. Most famously Yevering, which has been suggested to be Ad Geferen, and then obviously the later settlement of Mailmen and Furlings, which is supposed to be an elite residence nearby as well. And then you also have the monasteries of Northumberland, which you have with Lindisfarne, Monk Wearmouth, Jarrow, and those areas as well, which are ecclesiastical sites and obviously still continue well researched. But alongside that as well, I'd like to point out the hill forts, which I will come on to in a wee bit because I think they are very important in this. We do have some hope in the 5th and 6th centuries, and that hope comes in the form of large-scale mining, coal mining, and also extraction of minerals. So at both Shotton and Cheviot Colliery, they discovered these sites, and they are post-built structures with lovely curved ends. And I think this is something that would possibly show the 5th century if they were discovered more often. And these buildings here have carbon dates which are of 5th and 6th century, which are really exciting and give us a possibility of finding that between the end of the Roman period and the start of the Golden Age of Northumbria settlements in the northeast. Recently as well, Durham University have also... Someone spoke. Recently, Durham University re-excavated Yevering, and when they re-excavated Yevering, they were focusing on the Great Palisade enclosure, which is just, one second. Sorry, I didn't turn on the laser before I started. There we go, this structure right here. When they did their excavations on that, they discovered that it's actually late Bronze Age to late Iron Age. So it was originally built in 1000 BC, then rebuilt in 600 and then again in 300 BC. So that there is not actually contemporary with the rest of the Northumbrian the Northumbrian palace that you can see right there. But this shouldn't actually concern us as much because we know that the early medieval populations across the whole of the British Isles absolutely love focusing on prehistoric structures. So you can see, obviously, there's the Bronze Age barrows that they focus their burials on, and then having a hill fort in the area as well, or well, a lowlands hill fort, which I hope you appreciate the irony of, in the area shouldn't be a problem for understanding how they focus these sites. Just where they moved on to next, according to the Venerable Bede and Mailman, which is now Millfield in Northumberland, you can see the royal palace enclosure as identified by top marks, and then here as well, what Brian Hope Taylor believed was the continuation of the great palisade enclosure, but is again another lowlands hill fort. Just across in what is today Scotland, at Spruceton, you can see again another lowland hill fort. So my theory is that the royal palaces were actually focused again onto prehistoric sites of hill forts, which are already going to be important assembly places within the landscapes. Last year, I was a part of an excavation East Thurston in Northumberland. Right here, you can see a deer streak moving straight up 1 kilometre away from the site we were excavating, and this was the site we were excavating over here. It's either a productive site or a great hall complex. As again, you look at the Lidar, there isn't actually any features to suggest there's anything going on there, but it was discovered by metal detectors and PAS finds. So the pink ones are the early medieval PAS finds, and the purple are Roman age PAS finds. When they were doing that as well, they were mostly finding it was Viking age stuff, and then they dug down and they found an absolutely massive sunken feature building, as well as possibly a great hall with a very large oven in it as well. It was reported on the BBC. Excitingly, when it was being excavated, I was all wet behind the ears and excited after my dissertation, went away, did some aerial looks through Google Earth, and I found a lowland hill fort. So I put that onto the Lidar there, and you can see just the outline of where the hill fort is in the crop marks. And so you have a hill fort right next to what is possibly another great enclosure right there. And there was also in the crop marks 2 possible Bronze Age barrows, round barrows. But unfortunately, when we did test pitting, there's no evidence of those whatsoever. They've been probably ploughed out. But they are, when you can see where I've marked them on where the crop marks suggested they were. So that's a really interesting one right there at East Thurston. Similarly, nearby Oldham, we have another site identified by metal detectorists. Green is Iron Age, pink again, early medieval, purple Roman, and Bronze Age is golden. So that is the things you have right there. And you can see again a possibility of some form of prehistoric enclosure in this area as well, but I'm holding that one very loosely. We also have got this wonderful, very early for Northumberland, long short rope, which again would suggest that there's a possibility of something going on in the area in the early medieval period. Newark, slightly further north in Northumberland, has got, from aerial photography, possibilities, sunken featured buildings, which you can see the pink dots on the map. There is a wonderful hill fort just above it, and Roman Iron Age settlements around here, but it's got this lovely sandy glacial deposit just above the river, which is very much what we see the early medieval and Anglo-Saxon populations gravitating towards. So again, that's one I'm hopeful for, and especially with the name Buick, it suggests as translated as the place of bees with the production of honey. I think that is an exciting one there. We've also got a lovely Roman period pottery just down here from the Antonine period, from when this was actually within the Roman Empire, and just here we've got the Devil's Causeway and a split road coming off it just right beside this location. So with the continual use of the area, I think that's a really good option for the region for continual use. Some of you may know the New Involved Hoard, which was a lovely copper alloy collection of Roman containers, and also a 7th century Anglo-Saxon hanging bowl, which was discovered during Victorian drainage of this area here. If you look on the Lidar image, you can see where the lake was previously. That was a lake in the, before the Victorians. It was drained, but then Durham University following on did a dig at this area at Beresford Cairns and found a Neolithic into Bronze Age wooden platform that went in and then burnt rocks and deposited in the water. So this has been an assembly place going back to the Neolithic, which is really quite cool, followed on by a early medieval, possibly late Roman deposition into the water as well. And then just next to it as well, we have this wonderful crop mark, which again is probably a lowland hill fort. And from here as well, if you're standing there, you can actually see Bamber Castle. So it's all connected in the landscape between other elite sites and locations as well, which I I think is brilliant. And then alongside that, it's 3 kilometers to the west, we have Beer Street as well. So it's slightly further away, but I've still included it because of the other things. Now, right here, we have Isabella's Mount, and this is where you have to sort of go into some of the other documents. O'Brien has done a wonderful thing about the landholdings of the Cospatricks, who were the descendants of the Earls of Northumbria up in the northeast of England, and right down here we have Isabella. Isabella, as a part of her inheritance, was given this plot of land where we can see this wonderful Iron Age modified hill fort, which is then gone into the Roman Iron Age. Alongside that, opposite there, you've got Hesper's Law, which is another upland settlement with a palisade and a wall around it. And then down here we have Osberwick, which is a medieval deserted village. So my theory in this area is that possibly we have an occupation of an elite site here, which then continues to be important within the Northumbrian period, because of the fact that the Northumbrians then have kept this as a plot of land that was then inherited throughout the aristocratic families of the northeast. And so I think with further investigation, we might actually find that in this area with further look, I haven't had time to go through all the plot marks for this one, unfortunately, but we'd find possibly either a shifting settlement or possibly an early medieval settlement in this area, which would be really exciting. And if you want a funny story, ask me about mushrooms at some point about that one. Nothing Joyce related. So right here we have the Middletons, and I haven't been able to go into half as much depth, but going back to the work of O'Brien again, you can see right up here, this is the 3 Middletons, and he believes this is a fainage of the Northumbrian period. And so the red lines are crudely drawn on, show the boundaries between the different plots of land. And you can see that there are a lot of Roman Iron Age settlements going along the upland areas. Blue dots are the medieval settlements, but again, other than some churches in this area here, you have nothing from the early medieval period, gold again being Bronze Age, green being Iron Age in this area right here. And so I've desperately tried to go out and photograph this area, field walk in my spare time. I went out on Sunday, but unfortunately the whole area was covered in fog, so you've got no photos to enjoy of this particular area. But what you do, what I do think is that we have to make an argument for longer continued use, which is where I come on to our next case study of Gunnarton. These again were excavated by George Joby, who is again, I mentioned, one of my heroes. And so right here you've got Gunnarton up here. He found these sites. You've got Middle Gunnar Peak, East and West Gunnar Peak, East and West Gunnar Peak, and those were found to be Roman Iron Age sites, which then, if you look on right here, were modified with medieval buildings or long halls attached to them. So when you've got those medieval buildings attached to them, I would like to make it sort of like an argument of that we should start really looking in the surrounding area to see if we can find that early medieval settlement. Again, we've got huge amounts of PAS finds because that yellow line at the bottom is Hadrian's Wall. So these are just slightly north of Hadrian's Wall, and around this area, around Humsna, sorry, I always struggle to pronounce that place. But in this area here, we have early medieval burials along the banks of the Tyne. Barrisford, we have this wonderful early medieval priestly burial with a shield and this wonderful silver discs that were attached to it. This is a great square-headed brooch which found just over here next to Gunnarton. And then we have a crop mark, which is potentially another Roman marching camp in the area as well, or possibly a Roman fort from its shapes. So there's some real amazing stuff going on here. But as you can see, apparently everyone stopped living here in 410 and didn't come back until the 12th century. Down here as well, we also have Blue Crags. So we have a lovely Iron Age or hill fort in this area right here with a lovely enclosure for animals. And then just to the north of it, a medieval walled settlement right on this area here. So again, with the heavy plough marks, it makes it very hard to find crop marks in this area. But I do believe there's something going on in this area too. In conclusion, I think we have a lot of work to do. That's going to be at the top of the Uthering Bell at high winds. The pink dots to show you the PAS finds, and then the slightly smaller pink dots show you actually where early medieval settlements have been identified in the northeast. And comparatively, you just see that well, one of these apparently really strong early medieval kingdoms, Northumbria, just doesn't seem to have much going on here. And it's my big passion to continue to use Lidar, aerial photography, and other things like that to try and identify where people are living, especially in the upland region, which is my passion. That's my bibliography if you're interested. And this is where I'm going to go next, Gallows Law and Blue Crags, because you've got that gorgeous hill fort right there, which does have a curved-ended structure inside of it, And so that will be where I'm going to go to next. Now I'll just paraphrase Puck at the end and say, if this presentation has offended, think that this and all this mended. You just slumbered here while this presentation did it for all. And if you have any questions, catch me at the end, and I should have finished a little bit early because of my nerves and my heart going like the clappers. But there you go.